There's a terrifying truth about what happens to souls who have chosen the path of evil, a truth most people will never discover until it's too late. For over 2 decades of studying ancient texts, meditating in sacred places, and exploring the deepest mysteries of existence, I have come across revelations that few dare to share. Today, I'm going to break the silence about the terrifying fate that awaits those who have lived to cause suffering, manipulate, and destroy. What you're about to discover will shake your deepest beliefs about justice, karma, and the true workings of the universe. Because there is a cosmic law at work, a law that doesn't fail, doesn't automatically forgive, and can't be tricked. And if you've ever wondered why terrible people seem to thrive in this world, get ready to find out that true justice happens beyond the veil of physical death. If this content is resonating with you, leave a like so I know I should keep revealing these hidden truths. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell, because this is information that few channels have the courage to share. Your comments about your own spiritual experiences are essential for us to build a community of truth seekers. But before we dive into the chambers of cosmic judgment, you need to understand something crucial. Death isn't the end. It's just the beginning of a journey that can be more terrifying than any earthly nightmare. Let me share how I came to these revelations. For decades, I dedicated my life to studying the deepest mysteries of existence. I spent years in ancient libraries, translating texts in Sanskrit, Aramaic, and lost languages that hold secrets about the unseen realms. I meditated in sacred caves in Tibet, in forgotten temples in Egypt, and at power sites around the world. But it was during a near-death experience 15 years ago that I gained direct access to this information. For 43 minutes, my consciousness was transported to regions of the cosmos that science can't yet measure. There, I witnessed firsthand the processes by which souls are judged and directed after leaving the physical body. What I'm about to reveal doesn't come from philosophical speculation or conventional religious beliefs. These are direct observations, corroborated by mystical texts that have remained hidden for millennia. The ancient keepers of knowledge knew these truths, but they kept them secret because they understood that humanity wasn't ready for this responsibility. Now, at a critical moment in human evolution, this information needs to come to light, because every one of us is making daily choices that determine our cosmic destiny, and most people have no idea about the real consequences of their actions. There's a reason this information has been kept secret for so long. It's not because it's false, it's because it's too powerful. The knowledge about the true fate of evil souls has the power to completely transform how we live, how we treat each other, and how we see our cosmic responsibility. But here's the unsettling part. Ignorance offers no protection. Not knowing about these universal laws doesn't exempt us from their consequences. It's like a person who has never studied physics but is still subject to gravity when they jump off a cliff. The oldest esoteric traditions speak of Akashic records, a kind of cosmic library where every action, thought, and intention is recorded forever. But what few people know is that these records aren't just passive archives. They are active elements in the post-death judgment. Every malevolent soul is confronted with the totality of their actions, not as distant memories, but as vivid, intense experiences. What you're about to discover goes against everything conventional religions teach about automatic forgiveness and unconditional mercy. Because there's a fundamental difference between genuine repentance and desperate attempts to escape when the consequences become inevitable. Get ready for a journey through the chambers of cosmic judgment, where the raw, naked truth about our actions manifests in ways that can transform a malevolent consciousness into something that can barely be called human. The moment of physical death is just the first shock. The consciousness, still confused and disoriented, suddenly finds itself free from the limitations of the body, but also stripped of all the masks and excuses it used during its earthly life. It's in this vulnerable moment that the malevolent soul enters the first chamber of judgment, the mirror of truth. Imagine standing before a cosmic mirror that doesn't reflect your physical appearance, but the naked essence of who you really are. Every lie you told, every person you manipulated, every moment of calculated cruelty, All of it materializes before your eyes as an inescapable revelation. But this isn't a movie you watch passively. You experience every malevolent act from two devastating perspectives. First, you relive every moment of evil exactly as you committed it, feeling again the sick satisfaction you drew from others' suffering. But then comes the cosmic reversal. You are forced to experience every act from a second perspective, as the victim. The malevolent soul who spread destructive rumors about others during their earthly life feels, with multiplied intensity, the emotional pain they caused. The one who psychologically manipulated vulnerable people experiences the confusion, fear, and despair their victims felt. The corrupt person who stole resources meant for the needy experiences the hunger, the cold, and the desperation their greed brought about. But here's the most terrifying aspect. This isn't an experience that lasts minutes or hours. In the realm beyond physical death, time works in a completely different way. Every second of suffering you caused expands into ages of conscious experience. The malevolent soul might spend the equivalent of decades experiencing a single afternoon of cruelty it practiced on Earth. And that's just the beginning. After passing through the mirror of truth, the malevolent soul believes it has faced the worst, but it's deeply mistaken. The second chamber is known in ancient texts as the laboratory of consequences, a realm where every malevolent action materializes as a living, autonomous force that eternally haunts its creator. Here, your own creations turn against you. Every lie you spread becomes a shadowy entity that constantly whispers in your ears, distorting your perception of reality. Every betrayal you committed materializes as a presence that corrodes your ability to trust or be trusted. The envy you cultivated turns into an insatiable spiritual hunger that devours your essence from the inside out. But the most terrifying thing is understanding that you yourself fed these forces throughout your entire earthly existence. Every malicious thought, every pleasure drawn from others' suffering, every moment of calculated cruelty, all of it accumulated into an arsenal of consequences that now have a life of their own. The soul that dedicated its existence to psychological manipulation finds itself surrounded by distorted reflections of itself, each reflection representing a person it emotionally broke. These reflections aren't passive. They apply the same manipulation techniques to the soul that it used against others, but with a precision and intensity that only purely energetic entities can achieve. The psychological impact is devastating. The soul realizes with crystal clarity that it has become a prisoner of its own creations, and herein lies the cruelest cosmic irony. The more malevolent the soul was in life, the more powerful and persistent are the forces that now torment it. In the third chamber, the malevolent soul faces something that defies all human comprehension, the tribunal of eternal echoes. This isn't a court as we know it on Earth, with judges, lawyers, and procedures. It's a space where every life you negatively impacted manifests as a force of judgment. Imagine being in a vast cosmic amphitheater, surrounded by thousands, perhaps millions, of ethereal presences. Each presence represents not only the people you directly harmed, but also all those who were affected by the ripple effects of your actions. The person you drove to suicide is there, but so are their orphaned children, their devastated parents, their friends who never recovered from the loss. The corrupt official who diverted funds from hospitals faces not only their direct victims, but every patient who died from lack of treatment, every family destroyed by the loss, every healthcare professional who carried the guilt of not being able to save lives due to the scarcity of resources. But here's the most disturbing aspect. These presences aren't there for revenge. They are there to bear witness. Each one silently projects the totality of the suffering their existence held because of the judged soul's actions. There are no words of accusation, no screams of anger, just an overwhelming presence of pure pain that fills every fiber of the malevolent soul's consciousness. The soul realizes it has become the epicenter of a cosmic web of suffering. Each thread of this web pulses with the agony it caused, and it feels simultaneously all of this suffering as if it were its own. The normal human ability to rationalize, justify, or downplay one's actions completely disappears in this environment of absolute truth. The fourth chamber represents the point of no return for many evil souls. Known in the most ancient texts as the abyss of spiritual dissolution, it is a state where the very structure of individual consciousness begins to fragment under the weight of its own destructive creations. Here, the soul is no longer dealing with external reflections of its actions. It is literally being devoured from the inside by the forces it created. The evil that once seemed to give it power and control now reveals itself as a spiritual cancer, consuming the essence of its very identity. Consciousness begins to break into fragments. Each fragment carries a specific memory of cruelty, but without the larger context of the personality that committed it. Imagine being reduced to pieces of pure experience, one fragment that is just the memory of torturing an animal, another that is just the satisfaction of destroying a marriage, another that is just the pleasure of humiliating a child. These fragments exist in a state of perpetual agony because they are deprived of the ability to rationalize that the integrated mind possesses. They are pure negative experience, without the psychological protection of justification or forgetfulness. For some souls, this process of fragmentation continues until there's nothing left that could be called an individual consciousness. They become dispersed into the cosmic fabric as pure, disorganized, energy not dead but no longer existing as conscious entities. It's a form of dissolution that goes beyond physical death. It's the death of the soul itself. But even in this seemingly final state, the ancient texts speak of a remote possibility, a chance for reintegration that depends on cosmic forces operating on unimaginable timescales. This possibility, however, comes with a price that defies all human understanding of suffering and redemption. But here is where the true complexity of cosmic justice reveals itself. Not all fragmented souls remain eternally dispersed. There is a fifth chamber, rarely mentioned even in the most esoteric texts, known as the cycle of reconstruction through suffering. It's a process that challenges our linear understanding of time and conscious experience. The scattered fragments of the malevolent soul begin to be drawn together by a cosmic magnetic force, not out of compassion, but due to a fundamental law of the universe that doesn't allow conscious energy to be permanently destroyed. However, this reconstruction isn't a gift. It's an ordeal that makes all previous suffering seem insignificant. During this period of reaggregation, which can last the equivalent of millions of Earth years, the reconstructing consciousness simultaneously experiences all the perspectives of suffering it caused. It's no longer a sequential experience where you feel first as the perpetrator, then as the victim. Now you exist as both perpetrator and victim at the same time, creating a paradox of consciousness that generates a previously impossible form of psychological agony. Imagine being simultaneously the torturer and the tortured, the manipulator and the manipulated, the betrayer and the betrayed. Your consciousness becomes an internal battlefield where you fight yourself, punish yourself, and try to escape from yourself. But there is no escape because you are all of these perspectives simultaneously. During this process, something extraordinary and terrible happens. The soul in reconstruction develops a form of expanded consciousness. It can perceive not only its own suffering, but the suffering of all other souls going through the same cycles of purification. It becomes aware of a cosmic network of agony where millions of consciousnesses are undergoing similar processes of dissolution and reconstruction. This expanded perception creates a new form of torment. The soul becomes empathetic to the universal suffering it helped create. It feels with unbearable intensity not only its own direct victims, but all the victims of all evil souls throughout all of cosmic history. It's as if it becomes a cosmic receiver for all the pain that evil has ever caused in the universe. But here is the most disturbing aspect of this chamber. Some souls start to get addicted to this expanded suffering. They discover that the intensity of the cosmic agony offers a distorted form of ecstasy, a pleasure derived from the absolute magnitude of their own destruction. These souls become eternally trapped in this cycle, neither completely dissolving nor progressing to later stages. The sixth chamber represents a fundamental change in the nature of the malevolent soul's existence. Known to Tibetan mystics as the laboratory of molecular transformation, it's here that the very energetic structure of consciousness is altered at levels that earthly science cannot yet comprehend. At this stage, the soul is no longer just dealing with the emotional or psychological consequences of its actions. It is being literally rebuilt on a spiritual, subatomic level. Every particle of its conscious essence is being reprogrammed to permanently carry the memory of the suffering it caused. Think about it. In life, we could forget our cruel acts, rationalize our evil, or simply ignore the consequences. But in the sixth chamber, every fundamental component of your conscious existence is imbued with the vivid memory of every moment of suffering you caused. You don't just remember, you are those memories. The process is described in ancient texts as weaving agony into the fabric of the soul. Imagine if every cell in your physical body carried the memory of a specific pain you caused others, and that pain physically manifested whenever you tried to exist normally. In the sixth chamber, this happens on an even more fundamental spiritual level. But here's where the narrative takes an unexpected turn. Some souls, after going through this process of molecular impregnation with suffering, begin to develop something that can only be described as forced compassion. It's not a conscious choice to become compassionate. It's a fundamental alteration in their energetic structure that makes them physically incapable of causing or desiring suffering. These transformed souls become, in essence, involuntary cosmic healers. They are compelled, by their own altered nature, to seek out and alleviate suffering wherever they find it. But here's the cosmic irony. They do this not out of genuine goodness, but because the altered structure of their consciousness makes them feel physical pain when they encounter suffering. They don't try to alleviate. It's a form of redemption that is simultaneously merciful and cruel. They are saved from their previous evil, but condemned to an eternity of compulsory service. They become cosmic instruments of healing, but conscious instruments that perfectly remember their former malevolent nature and know that their current compassion is not a free choice. The seventh and final chamber is perhaps the most mysterious of all. Known only to the highest masters as the Chamber of Cosmic Choice, it is here that souls who have survived all the previous processes face a decision that will determine their existence for the next eons. After going through dissolution, reconstruction, molecular transformation, and forced compassion, the soul finally regains something it lost long ago, genuine free will. But this isn't the same kind of choice we had in our earthly life. This is a choice made with full knowledge of all cosmic consequences, a choice made with the wisdom gained through ages of purifying suffering. The transformed soul is presented with three possible paths. The first is the path of compassionate forgetting. It can choose to have all memories of its journey through the chambers erased and be reborn as a completely new soul, but with an indelible natural tendency toward compassion. It's a form of spiritual death and rebirth that offers a genuine fresh start. The second is the path of the cosmic guardian. It can choose to keep all its memories and become a guide for other souls going through the same processes. These souls become the beings I encountered during my own near-death experience, entities that deeply understand both evil and redemption because they have experienced both completely. The third path is the most mysterious and rarely chosen. The path of conscious return. The soul can choose to return to physical, earthly existence, keeping all its memories of the purification processes, but with no guarantee that it won't fall back into malevolent patterns. It's a risky choice that some make because they feel they have a specific mission to accomplish on Earth. Here's what I found to be most extraordinary. Some of these souls who choose the conscious return become the greatest healers and spiritual teachers of humanity. They possess an understanding of suffering and redemption that no innocent soul could ever achieve. Their experiences through the chambers make them capable of helping others in ways that transcend conventional compassion. But I also discovered something unsettling. Other souls who make this choice become even more sophisticated forms of evil. They use their knowledge of cosmic processes to find ways to cause suffering that avoid the most severe consequences, or to manipulate other souls in their own judgment processes. The choice in the final chamber reveals a fundamental cosmic truth. Even after undergoing extreme purification, the fundamental essence of free will remains. The universe doesn't force goodness, it offers consequences for choices, but the ability to choose remains sacred and untouchable.